You'd have a hard time getting them off that hay.
Welcome back to the good old Southern Iowa Hay here, folks. Today I am stepping way outside my comfort zone to bring you a video unlike I've ever brought before. I'm not a YouTuber that asks you guys to share my videos, but with this subject, if it hits home, you might want to consider sharing it. With the recent change in administrations, I've kind of had keeping my eye out for any policy changes that could be coming down the line to affect family farms. I came across an article published by Lonesome Lands, and it outlined policy changes that scare me, significantly scare me. They are an absolute possible threat to generational farms or even generational small businesses. Most farmers that I know, myself included, aren't just farming for themselves. They're farming for the possibility to pass it along to their children and even their children's children. After reading the article, I reached out to Jim and I asked him if he'd be interested in helping produce a video to outline the possible policy changes that could be coming down the pipeline. He agreed, so let's introduce Jim. Or let's let Jim introduce Jim.
I'm Jim Mundorf, and I farm with my family outside of Griswold, Iowa, which is in southwest Iowa, where we farm corn, soybeans, we raise cattle. We have cow-calf. I don't know how many greats it goes back. It was been my dad's great-grandpa settled here, bought land from the railroad, and that was 1874. And so my family has farmed in this area since then and raised cattle. They had a lot of cattle. I also have a business called the Drover House, which I've done for 15, 16, almost 16 years now. And that's where I take longhorns and build stuff out of them. Cattle horns. Go around packing plants, pick up cattle horns, build stuff out of them. But then like 2-3 years ago, I started Lonesome Lands. I've always kind of had this idea, or like thought someone should do it, like just to put out more of an agriculture type perspective on the news. And so just take the news and kind of interpret it through how people in middle America see it. Finally, I was just like, screw it, I'll just do it. And I just sat down and knocked out, went through a couple news articles and wrote something up, and it was pretty lighthearted and everything at the start. And then, the more I got into it, the more I saw some really serious issues, I guess.
Link down in the description, you'll find Jim's latest article titled, "America's Family Farms Now Face the Greatest Threat to Their Existence."
So how I got there, definitely not a CPA or a whatever, but I had heard, rumblings about how when Biden got elected, it's going to really affect family farms and inheritance tax. His tax plan is. So the main article I came across was Biden's tax increase on death that no one is talking about. It's in Forbes magazine, but it was written by a tax attorney, Robert Wood. Took his word for it, and I just took what he wrote and put it into a farming perspective. And so that's where I ended up with the article.
In this article, Jim breaks down the proposed policies into two categories: unfortunate and disastrous. In the rest of this video, my goal is to break down these possible policy changes in a way that explain how they could actually affect small town America. Now, I have to give a basis to what most family farms are facing with these proposed policy changes. Most family farms are known as what is land rich and cash poor. Previous generations looked at a piece of land. They looked at it not as an investment, but a way of survival, a piece of soil that could provide for their family. Over the years of working the land and providing for their families, land values appreciated substantially, especially in the last 25 years. All while these farmers were making a humble living, thus making farmers or farm families land rich but cash poor. Family farms that decided not to cash in on the land but continue to work the land to provide inevitably pass on the land to the next generation at their death. When land, or any asset like a small business, is transferred from one generation to the next, under current policy, it undergoes what's called step-up basis. I'll let Jim describe.
Step-up basis is you're stepping up to the current land value as far as land. It can be used on a number of things, but
it's really that simple. Basis is pretty much the purchase price of an asset. In the examples that I'm going to be using, it's land. In this video's example, I'm going to be referring to 1 acre of land. An acre is a measurement of land we divide parcels up by. And in this example, that acre of land was purchased by a previous generation for $100. And over the years, that acre of land purchased by the previous generation has gained in value to a current market value of $1,000. Under current policies, when that acre of land is transferred to the next generation, under stepped up basis, that $100 an acre ground then gets transferred to a stepped up basis of $1,000 an acre. Basically like the next generation purchased the ground themselves for $1,000, a $900 step up in basis. So at the time of transfer from one generation to the next, the heirs have basically one of two options: to hold on to the asset or sell it. For the heirs that choose to sell the acre of land can do so at market value of $1,000 without paying any capital gains taxes because of the stepped up basis. This is where in Jim's article the unfortunate part of the policy change comes into play, which is
really just removing that step up. So instead of inheriting your land at its current value, you would be inheriting the appreciated value wherever your parents got it at.
Now, in this example, under the proposed policy changes, the heirs that wish to sell that acre of land no longer have the stepped up basis of $1,000, and their basis is back at $100. Which means when the heir sells that acre of land, they will have to pay a capital gains tax on the $900 if they sell it at a market value of $1,000. Which means for the heir that chooses to sell the asset, a tax liability. But for the heirs that want to continue on farming or with the family business, it sucks that you lose that step up basis, but you can continue onward. Unless the policy that Jim describes in his article as disastrous is implemented, which is unrealized appreciation tax.
Unrealized appreciation would be if you kept it and you don't have the money, but you still have to pay the tax on that. This article by Robert W. Wood, who's a tax attorney, he states Biden's plan could leave you paying higher income taxes after a death by repealing present law's step-up basis that increases the tax basis for inherited assets to their full fair market value upon death. So that's the removal of the step-up basis. Biden's tax plan calls for carrying over an asset's tax basis from the descendant to the next generation. No amount of tax exemption would help you because this is a big income tax increase. So that just describes how it's not a capital gains, it's income tax, and no amount of exemption would help you. And that's some of the feedback I've gotten on the article wants to talk about exemption. According to this guy, the inheritance exemptions, he says no amount of estate tax exemption would help you.
And that's really something. What that means is now the next generation of farmers or small business owners will have to pay a tax on an asset that they didn't even sell. Now let's move away from our 1 acre land here that I've been using relatively small numbers on and get to some more realistic numbers. Let's say the previous generation of your family farm went out and purchased 500 acres, and that is the home base. That 500 acres sold at $1,000 an acre, making the estate worth or have a basis of $500,000. Just like the previous example, that generation worked the land, they provided for their family, earning a humble income. Over the years, that land is now appreciated to a net value of $5,000 an acre, making the farm or the home base of the farm worth a value of $2.5 million. And they choose not to cash in on that $2.5 million because the next generation wants to continue on and continue farming. And this could be just like a small family-owned business, like a bakery, a repair shop, a trucking company, name it, small town America. So if these policies are passed, how much is my generation going to have to pay in unrealized appreciation tax? Which it would really be interesting to see how they name this tax so they can make it sound like they're not screwing you.
Okay.
Published on Forbes is an article titled "What a Biden Wins Means for Tax Policy," written by Taylor Tepper. Right now, profits from the sale of an asset you've owned for a year and a day are taxed at either 15 or 20% depending upon your annual income. Biden proposes raising the top rate to 39.6% for the highest earners. 39.6%. As I continue with our lovely 500-acre estate, I won't even round up to 40%. I'll leave the 0.4% off of this policy. So now the heir, and keep in mind this heir wants to work the land and provide for their family, will incur a tax that's basically unsurvivable. With the estate basis of $500,000 and the current value of it at the time of transfer being $2.5 million, essentially that estate has shown a capital gain of $2 million. In case you're following along with me mathematically, I'll wait a second for you to punch in those numbers on your calculator before I tell you what that tax bill is. That's right, $792,000. Now, let's bring this home. I've been trying to be successful at farming for 7 years now, and let me tell you what, it's a struggle. Most farmers that farm don't do it for monetary reasons. They do it because they see a value in the life that it provides. If they didn't see a value in the life that it provides, they would have cashed in a long time ago. Now, if you grow up around small farm communities, it's not hard to hear the stories of the trials and tribulations that previous generations had to go through. They went through the 80s, and it's not an easy lifestyle that they had to do to provide for their families. Most of the previous generations, they didn't see farming as a way of life that they even wanted for their kids. They encouraged them. They even pushed them off the farm to get college educations, go to the city, secure a job, that is more stable for their family. Heck, my father even did this with me. He pushed me to get my college education, and when I told him I wanted to come back to the farm, he explained the risks that I was taking with that life decision. But now the next generation, like me, that's stubborn, bullheaded, or whatever you want to call us, that thinks they have the tenacity to forge on, might be faced with the question of how are they possibly going to pay this tax bill?
You have to find some way to pay it, and if you have land that's worth that kind of money, then you would sell it off. But if you have the land, if you're making, a modest living on the amount of land, and then you have to sell off a portion of it, you're reducing your ability to make more, the same living you were before.
Yeah.
And so it gets to the point where it's, what's the point?
And what's the point is the catalyst of this threat. If you take away the dream, you take away the drive. And if you take away the drive, you take away family farms and small businesses in America. So you've got to ask yourself, why would someone support a policy like this?
And that's where the political talking points will get tossed around, where they'll talk about generational wealth and privilege. I doubt, farmers were really thought of when this proposal was put together. When people hear generational wealth, they're thinking Vanderbilts and Rockefellers and these multi-million-dollar families. If you get down to the brass tacks of farming, that's not really what it's about. I mean, you don't have that money in the bank.
No.
And you're just trying to make a living off of that land. People wanting to be able to give their kids a chance to farm, what grandpa farmed. That's really what it's about. So.
Right now, as I make this video for you guys, I'm sitting in a shop on a farm that I purchased. My dream is to see possibly the next generation plant this field, and if I can live long enough, maybe the generation after that. I'm excited to see what my generation can do. If we can rise up to the challenge and carry on, I think ag's in an absolutely amazing place, and it's evolved tremendously in the short 7 seasons that I've been at it. Farmers are taking on the challenge of environmental change. They are worried about how they place their nutrients. They're worried about soil health and water quality. I fear that if policies like this were implemented, the next generation of family farms would cease to exist. And I find it hard to believe that large corporate farms will care for the land or the small communities that they support like we do. I ask you again to like and share this video to help spread the word if these policy changes could affect you at home. I hope this video maybe gives us a chance to be more proactive than reactive. I know that I'm trying to do my part with the platform that you guys have been giving me, and I know that Jim's trying to do his part with his platform. I hope you guys can do the same. Until next time down here in the Southern IA. Yep.
Nope. I just need you all to know that Benjamin wrote a book report for you. And this is what he did. He put the numbers on the bottom of the pages to keep himself organized. But then this dingaling put them in the wrong order. It goes 1, 2, 3, 7. Wait for it. 5, 6, and then we got 4, 8, 9, 10. At least he got that part right.